2:01, and I want to call to order. Ready, Tony? Okay, I want to call to order the Board of Directors special meeting on policy administration. Today is Thursday, March 5th, 2026. I am your chair, Director Botello, and our vice chair is Director Killhold. And is there anyone online, Mr. Clerk, who would like to introduce themselves?
So any member of the public online that would like to introduce themselves, please raise your hand.
Okay, hearing none, seeing none, let's move on. Public comment. Members of the public may address the board regarding any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. However, no action may be taken on off-agenda items except as authorized by law. Each speaker is limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Mr. Clerk, any requests to speak?
Mr. Chair, I have not received any requests to speak, and to the public that's present online, if you wish to provide a public comment, please raise your hand to be recognized.
Okay, seeing none, let's move on. Discussion and possible action items. Discussion item 3.1 is going to be brought to us today by our Strategic Communications Manager, Kelly Malloy, and it is our state and federal legislative update. Kelly.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Chair Botello. Today, we have just a very brief state and federal legislative update. We haven't talked about any of that really this fiscal or this calendar year. So we wanted to just take a moment to kind of do a quick check-in of what's happening. We have both representatives from the Gualco Group and IFS to talk about issues. So we will start with our state update. Jackson sends his regards. He has a scheduling conflict, so Kendra is going to walk us through. We're in amazing hands, and so she will share what's going on in Sacramento. Kendra.
Great, thank you, Kelly, for that kind introduction, and Chair Botello and Mr. Keelhold. Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. As Kelly said, Jack sends his regrets, but had a longstanding meeting on his calendar. The legislature has returned for the second year of the 2-year legislative session. There were committee changes in the Senate due to a new president pro tem who was elected late last year. Monique Limon from the Santa Barbara area replaces Mike McGuire. With any change in leadership comes changes in committees and offices, frankly. Senator Limon had been the chair of the Senate Natural Resources and Water Committee because she has risen to the pro tem chair. That chair for Senate Natural Resources and Water was open. It has been filled by Senator Josh Becker. He was elected to the Senate in November 2020 and represents the San Mateo and Santa Clara County areas. Moving on to bill introductions. Last Friday 2 Fridays ago was the bill introduction deadline. We saw this year in the second year of the 2-year session, 561 Senate bills, 1,237 Assembly bills. So that's a total of almost 1,800 bills in this year. Nearly 600 of those bills are spot bills. Spot bills are placeholders that have non-substantive language in them. Bills have to be in print for 30 days before they can be amended or have any action taken on them. So we could see up to 500 to 600 bills, as Jack calls it, the second bulge in the snake for us to review in the late March timeframe. The legislature's focus hasn't changed much from last year. You'll see a list of issues. I think state budget is going to be the overarching thing that either haunts or makes us happy, mostly haunting us because the state budget has not improved from the last couple of years. The projection by the Department of Finance and the Legislative Analyst Office, the LAO is the Policy and Fiscal Advisors to the state legislature. They're projecting deficits in the $20+ billion range for the next few budget cycles. That affects funding in all areas, baseline funding, and then also funding for projects that legislators may want to pursue. It also impacts Proposition 4 implementation. Proposition 4 is the November 2025 Climate and Natural Resources Bond Bill. A lot of the money that we had hoped would go for projects is actually going to help bolster baseline funding for departments and agencies. Affordability has been a buzzword and has been key in any consideration of legislation, which is a good thing for bills that we don't like. It also scored very high in the recent PPIC poll that they did with gubernatorial candidates, and that we'll get into that in a little bit. But the other items that you see on the slide are, ongoing issues. The only new item that has risen up in the attention span of the legislature has been data centers. The placing of data centers will put a large call on resources, energy, and water. And so the legislature collectively is trying to get their arms around how will that impact affordability for water and energy for existing customers. So that'll be a nice, deep conversation that will be had, hopefully. We have been continuing to support SB 72, the bill that was signed into law last year by Senator Caballero, and that was a California Water for All effort. The bill was signed into law. Unfortunately, it was shortchanged a bit in the governor's state budget that was proposed in January. And so the Municipal Utilities Association is leading the charge again to try to help restore full funding for implementation of SB 72. We did appear yesterday in the Assembly Budget Subcommittee to support that ongoing effort. The last item on this slide is the governor's bifurcated attention and possible changes in 2027, and that lends us to look at the role of the governor this year. He definitely has his eye on higher office, and so he is going between messaging for a campaign and for that higher office, and then also messaging and efforts for his existing role as governor of the state. So at the end of session, he showed that he had some divided attentions and some very key issues didn't get the attention they deserved. There was the passage of a new cap and trade, which is now called Cap and Invest program extension, which would try to help bolster the state budget because of the greenhouse gas reduction fund monies that come into the state because of the Cap and Invest funding. And we'll talk about that on our next slide. But there are a lot of things that were left undone. One in particular has to do with the Delta Conveyance Project. So possible changes is, of course, with the upcoming election, there will be a new governor. Just quickly on that, if I could have just a minute on that. There was a recent PPIC, Public Policy Institute poll that showed the top 5 candidates for governor. 2 of those, the top 2 were actually Republican members, Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco. For the Democrats, Katie Porter, Eric Swalwell, he's a current congressman, and Tom Steyer were the top Democrats. The Democratic bench is very deep. There's 9 candidates, 9 Democratic candidates, and 2 Republican candidates. So you've probably seen articles in the paper that there's a fear amongst the Democrats that there would be too much dilution of Democratic votes amongst all of those candidates, and that could bolster the possibility of a top 2 primary win for the 2 Republican candidates that would then go on to the general election. The Democratic Party chair made a very rare announcement that it was a general announcement, not pointing to any of the Democratic candidates in particular, but it was him asking the candidates to take a good hard look at themselves, and if they don't have a chance of winning, please exit the race. So they're trying to ensure that the candidates with the most that have the most opportunity to win in June during the primary move on. They pointed out that in 2014, then Senator Leland Yee was running for Secretary of State. He was, after he announced for Secretary of State, was federally indicted under corruption charges. Even though he was under indictment, he still received over 300,000 votes statewide. So he was not running because he was under indictment, but he still had an impact because of name recognition, probably because, you know, he has his surname appealed to a certain constituency. And so he did funnel votes away from other candidates. But that was a funny kind of example. But anyway, the second page, we have the priority issues that are being tackled by the state water contractors. The first is SB 872 by Senator McNerney. This is a piece of legislation that would identify $300 million annually for 30 years from the greenhouse gas reduction funds. Half of those funding each year, so $150 million would go for conveyance subsidence repairs, and $150 million would be set aside annually for delta levee repairs. I think everybody knows that the GGRF is oversubscribed. With the new cap and invest reauthorization last year, GGRF funding was placed into tiers, 3 tiers. The top tier is for CAL FIRE. The second tier is for high-speed rail, and then everybody else falls under tier 3. So as you can imagine, anybody that has a project that would like to be funded through GGRF, they're all competing amongst the other tier 3 folks. Some of those folks are water interests as well. So we'll see how that fight comes about. The state water contractors also are looking at a possible water rights timeline extension. This is a technical extension that is being discussed further, and so it's placed under priorities, but it is still pending some key details. And then the last item is groundwater recharge, and the state water contractor wants to ensure that whenever groundwater recharge is being discussed, that there is the idea or language inserted into bills that the state water project water rights are protected, and there's a reasonable set of ground rules and a framework that would facilitate groundwater recharge opportunities while protecting other existing water right holders. And that's it from me, unless you have questions.
Okay, thank you, Kendra. That was great. Board, open it up for questions. Seeing none, I have a couple of questions for you, Kendra.
Great.
So you mentioned committee assignments, Josh Becker.
Yes.
Yeah, so a couple of things. At the state level in Sacramento, when they are doing committee assignments, especially the chair, is it, hey, well, go ahead, you're next up, or is it about interest, about passion? And my question is going to, does Josh Becker have a real interest in water, and is he going to be a really, I'm not real familiar with his record, is he going to be a huge advocate for us?
He is, he historically has been interested in a variety of issues. He's an attorney by trade. He was serving on the California State Workforce Development Board and also served on the Child Care Partnership Council in San Mateo. He had a personal business that was a biotech company researching cancer cures, because his father unfortunately had cancer, and he lost his father to brain cancer. He was also CEO of a company that pursued public interest projects, and ensuring that there was a means to support entrepreneurs who wanted to innovate legal and public policy systems to ensure social responsibility in business. So I would say that to answer your question more directly, he has had an interest, but it wasn't his key interest in his past legislation. He was also energy chair and also serves on the insurance and transportation committees. I took a quick look at the bills that he introduced this year, and he's only got maybe one or two that are focused on water.
Okay, that, I was just interested.
Yeah.
It would be great if those chairmanships were reserved for individuals who have a passion and an interest for whatever the subject matter is. But anyway, just one final point. If could you pay special attention to the data center?
Yes.
Here we're already on it, this board, and we know that there's a lot of energy, electricity that is used, and also water. And
Yeah.
yeah, so there's this whole big excitement about AI, but there's a huge cost, and we want to make certain that we are up on the latest information. So I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. We are also share your interest and concerns. While it sounds like a great opportunity, there's definitely some downside that needs to be considered. So always devil's in the details, but we hear you and appreciate you commenting on that.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a great to update, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
That would be great. Thank you
you
so much, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
All right, back to the other side of the house. So the federal legislative update, we have Letitia on the line to give a brief update on a few of the activities that are going on in DC on behalf of San Bernardino Valley.
Thank you, Kelly.
Letitia.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hi, how are you? And I think Jean is on the line as well. So just good news. We met with the new staffer in Senator Adam Schiff's office, the new field rep. His name is James DeLauro. We had a wonderful video call with him, and he's agreed to come out and visit SB Valley in early April. So I'll keep you all posted about that. And he's very interested in seeing the kinds of things that we're doing out there. So as you know, the majority of the federal government is funded except for the Homeland Security situation. There was another vote on trying to reopen Homeland Security today, but unfortunately it temporarily failed. It failed, and the CR that was running Homeland has expired. So members of Congress have also released their community project forms. And then, as you know, we're keeping our eye on WRDA. It's not something we're playing in exactly this year, but it's definitely something that we're very interested in for the future. So WRDA FY26 is in its early stages of development, and Congress has begun its oversight hearings and stakeholder inputs for the Water Resources Bill. So remember, this is the bill that accelerates Army Corps project delivery, deals with navigation and dredging improvements, flood control and storm protection, ecosystem restoration, and water infrastructure resiliency, and potential administrative reforms to streamline feasibility. So the anticipated timeline for this year is spring of 26, continued hearings and development of the legislation. In the summer of 26, the committee plans to have a markup and introduce the bill. And in the winter, the House and Senate are hoping to consider it. So I know the next big thing we're planning for is the NHCP visits. And I'm going to turn it over to Jean for that.
Hi, good afternoon. Great to be with you guys today. As Letitia indicated, we've got the National HCP Coalition coming into town the middle of March, March 25th and 26th. We've been working with our other coalition colleagues to get meetings for about a dozen folks that are coming in, including, at this point, our understanding is Director Harrison plans on attending part of the conference and being here to represent SBVMWD as we go around and talk about the importance of HCPs and funding through the Department of Interior. Got about a dozen, over a dozen offices and committee staffers that we're reaching out to, have secured meetings with about half of those. Also looking at going to the Department of Interior, meeting with the Assistant Secretary and also the head of U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Discussions are continuing to go about, what the package will look like on how we come together on discussion points. As I think Letitia might have mentioned in her discussion, the president has not released his budget request for FY27 yet. So not sure about what we're playing against when they start to mark up these bills here in the late spring, but definitely we'll take the time to talk about the importance and kind of echo what the talking about the state represented, state chairman and their interest in water issues. It's something that we always work on back here in Washington because we have the added layer of there's so many members that are in positions on committees that are not, that are, east side states or middle of the country states that don't even understand what a water issue is. Water, having water short supply is not a concept they can understand. So we spend a lot of time back here making sure that members that are in places of jurisdiction have an understanding of there's a huge part of the country out west that this is a very, very important issue. So I think we'll leave it at that. And if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Very, very comprehensive. Any questions from the board? I want to thank you for that comment on the committee assignments. That's a breath of fresh air. I look forward to you, really letting those on the East Coast know about what our water issues are, because you're right, they don't always know what we're going through out here on the West Coast. Also, Heather, are you and any other staff going to that?
I will be attending the
Good.
meetings in DC. Mhm.
Good. Okay, that's it. That's all we have today, and I want to thank both you and Letitia for presenting today. It was amazing. Thank you.
Great
Thank
to see
you.
you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that's a receive and file. Let's move on. Discussion item 3.2, again by Kelly. It's the California Special District Association, CSDA Board of Directors, call for nominations for seat C. Kelly.
Thank you, Chair Botelho. So today staff wanted to bring this item to your attention, not necessarily that the agency would have a direction to provide to us or looking for an action, but we wanted to make sure it was brought to your attention. So the CSDA has opened up calls for nomination for their seat C for our Southern Network. So as a reminder, that includes San Bernardino, Los Angeles, Riverside, Orange, Imperial, and San Diego counties. As I guess, knowing that we have two other seats beyond this one that are in this section. So, and that includes a representative from Phelan Pinyon Hills CSD and also Vista Irrigation District. So that allows for a representation existing from San Diego, San Bernardino, and LA counties of different types of special districts. Nikki Winslow is currently holding the seat C seat and has expressed an interest as the incumbent to be looking to run for re-election. The deadline to submit a nomination form is April 4th. And so we wanted to see if that would be something that our board would be interested in submitting for. Otherwise, we'll wait. And then when the elections come out for seat C, we'll bring that back to the board for consideration.
Are there any comments from the board?
Support Nikki Winslow.
How long do you know how long she's been in that seat?
No, at least the 2-year term. So at least 2 years, if not longer. So I believe there was a change.
Do you know how long
2
she's
years
been in that
ago.
seat? Do you know how long she has served in that seat? So my question is, she's a library district, so I'm sure she's not concerned with water. Does that matter, Bilford?
No, because the CSDA is an umbrella for all the various districts. And see that would be probably good.
Okay, I was just, no other comments? Okay. I think the only logical choice would be Milford, but
Mhm.
he's not interested. So,
I would be interested at another time, maybe.
okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Kelly.
you for the direction.
Mhm. Okay, and to round it off, as they say, 3.3.
I'm really sorry. I don't
Kelly,
normally have 3 items in one
Water
meeting. So
Conservation Program overview. Hit it.
thank you. So this is a really exciting update that we had promised that the board would be bringing this. So we and you may have noticed in the item we called this regional conservation programs. We normally refer to it as demand management. The only reason we called it conservation is just to clarify we're actually going to be providing an update on 3 separate programs. And so the language provided a little bit of confusion if we all called it all demand management. So, but just the reminder that our agency has a history of partnering with our local retailers to support water use efficiency and water use reductions within the region. That is one of the approaches that we have identified in the regional urban water management plan. We know most of what we've talked about recently are the exploration of new water supplies, groundwater capture of stormwater and imported water, but actually making sure that every drop that is used by the community within our service area is using that efficiently and looking at opportunities to eliminate non-essential water use so that we can maintain the high quality of life for this region. The program is intended to serve as a bridge. So primarily the regulatory obligation for water conservation programs fall on the retailers as rate-based organizations. That's something that they factor into their rate calculations. And then they are subject to different pieces of regulation, including the Making the Conservation of California Way of Life, water loss control and water loss auditing. And then coming up soon is non-functional turf restrictions. So there are lots of new elements in addition to the previous regulations that were in place. Those stayed in place. And so this is just a multiple layers of obligations that the retailers have to ensure that we have efficient water use within the region. The programs that we'll be talking about are funded both by the general fund and grant funding. So primarily, though, our demand management program is a general fund program. So that's a point that we always, when we're talking with the retailers, is while we want to make sure that we can support the different efforts, that unlike some other regional water agencies, we do not have a specific funding mechanism that we collect from retailers to fund conservation. And so we have to be really mindful about making sure that it provides the maximum benefit while also prioritizing those precious general fund funds. So first up, and it's not the official name, but we call it the Demand Management Incentive 2.0 or DMI. Now we just call it the Demand Management Program. So this is where we made that shift where in previous years, it was a check that would be issued to the retailers based on actual water savings for the previous year. One of the challenges that we came across in the program that was really intended to be a streamlined program administration is when you're dealing with water conservation, you can't compare. It's not apples to apple. Every year, because of the weather, because of different circumstances, it's really hard to gauge the effectiveness of those programs based on straight water usage, especially when we were looking at groundwater usage and looking at also the benefits of importing water. So what we did is we shifted that program to then become a lot more like a grant. So the agencies submitted applications for one-time project-specific requests with the prioritization given to actual wet water savings, but also to helping them to achieve regulatory compliance. So there are a number of elements in the new regulations that from a pure cost benefit analysis perspective may not make financial sense. But when you're looking at the greater good and trying to achieve conservation goals, they're very important. So there's a lot of planning efforts that the retailers have to undertake right now that is beyond the scope of what they've had to do in the past. And so it's really allowing them to look at the resources, the tools and techniques that are available to them and helping to provide some financial assistance. So with that, this is a brief summary. So City of San Bernardino, City of Rialto, West Valley Water District, East Valley Water District, City of Loma Linda, City of Colton, and Yucaipa Valley Water District all submitted applications. We, based on the $500,000 budget, were able to fund it's like 98% of the requests. The only one that is not fully funded is the West Valley Water District. And it ends up about $8,000 short of what their original request was. But we have had conversations with them and they're more than happy to have the amount that they receive. So these, as you can see, looking at the program descriptions, this is the exact reason why we try not to have a set regional program, because each of the agencies have different needs in order to achieve their conservation program requirements. So City of San Bernardino is looking at the urban water use objective. So that's that new California as a Conservation as a California Way of Life compliance program, specifically in planning. The City of Rialto is looking at rolling out and expanding some of their actual rebate programs that they can administer. West Valley is looking at a water use efficiency master plan. So again, looking in that planning direction of what are the targets, what are the expectations, and what is the roadmap in order to help them get there. East Valley Water District is looking at a water efficiency assessment pilot program specifically for commercial customers. Loma Linda has some data analysis through Eagle Aerial. Colton has demand management education that they want to be able to hold classes and be able to interact with their customers. And then Yucaipa Valley Water District is looking at leak detection, subterranean leak detection through, they'll go out to bid for that and being able to identify and reduce their water loss. So as you can see there, it's all over the map on what it was that were their priorities that they selected. And so I think they have all been appreciative of the board's flexibility and willingness to allow them to maintain the priorities within their given service area to achieve a statewide objective. Beyond that, we also have a grant that actually just closed out at the end of January. So that's the Prop 1 Round 1 grant. It's been in place since just, I think, before COVID. And so this is a program that actually almost all of our retailers within our service area have benefited from throughout the life of this grant. So the last 3 pieces two of them are actually for the City of Redlands, and one of them is going to West Valley Water District. So City of Redlands has 2. One is a unique project where it's actually a Citrus Grove irrigation retrofit. So transitioning Citrus Grove from potable water irrigation to using recycled water. So that was a $85,000 grant. That one has been approved by DWR and we have the check in the mail to them. Or at least in print. And then same with the West Valley Water District. Theirs is a conservation program reimbursement. So those are turf removal and weather-based irrigation controller installations that they've authorized. So the West Valley fronted those rebates to their customers, and then we were able to reimburse them for 50%. So that's a really interesting grant because West Valley has an amazing approach where that not only are they recognizing the expense of issuing the rebate, but they've already identified how, when they receive that check, they'll keep paying it forward. So specifically for them, they've been coordinating with Supervisor Baca's office to do non-functional turf removal within the Rosina Ranch HOA. So there's significant areas of non-functional turf that are going to need to go away in anticipation of the new regulations. And so instead of just putting the money into their general fund, they are going to actually apply that towards a cash match so that they can partner with Supervisor Baca. Because this is such an exciting, and I think this is what the board had intended for the retailers to do, is make sure that they continue building the momentum with these conservation programs. We'll be going and doing a ceremonial check presentation at an upcoming board meeting when we're requesting Supervisor Baca to also join, just to show that it's continuing the momentum of those efforts. The City of Redlands conservation programs that are pending, they were able to get in right at the deadline of this grant. So it's at DWR. They're just, like I said, 42,000, but it's just pending approval from the state. And then we'll coordinate a ceremonial check presentation with them once we know that final amount with City of Redlands, and we'll go to the City Council for that. So just knowing, and I did want to make that note because City of Redlands did not submit the demand management program, but they are receiving significant funds from the Prop 1 Round 1. So they're also benefiting from the programs that we offer. And then last, we have the DWR grant. As a reminder, this is where we were able to get the amendment to a grant that was awarded. It is a mixture of direct install and rebates. And so we're off to, I think, a good start. Because of the amendment, it has made it so that there is no cost match requirement, which is normally a hindrance for some of our retailers in participating. So normally there would be a 20% cost match for the retailers, or San Bernardino Valley would come in and bring cash. because we have committed to having it so that 80% of the projects that are located, that are used for this grant funding will be located within disadvantaged communities, there is no cost match. So it'll be fully reimbursed by the grant. So that makes it so it actually opens up a lot of we have some specific projects we've started coordinating with the retailers on to be able to roll out and maximize that benefit. One of the things that in the conversations with the retailers is, especially some of our institutional customers or in some of the not-for-profit entities, they don't have the cash flow to be able to do that non-functional turf removal. But we know that the region benefits from having that turf go away or having those efficient fixtures installed. So this allows for a lot that they don't have to fund a huge portion of project. We can use the grant funding to maximize that so that our disadvantaged community members can benefit from water efficiency measures. Just for context, this is the map of our disadvantaged communities within our service area. So every single one of our retailers has a portion of disadvantaged community that could participate. Also knowing there are some agencies that have more than others, but we are having active conversations. So if there is an area that has high potential for actual water savings that's not in a disadvantaged community, we still want to be able to maximize that benefit. And so we are working together with them right now. So just the reminder of the grant scope. So there's the traditional turf removal rebate. So that is for our commercial, industrial, institutional, and multifamily customers. So apartment complexes, HOAs, HOA common space. I just did an audit or a HOA in the city of Loma Linda, working with the city of Loma Linda staffers. And they're going to replace just over 9,000 square feet of turf. So just showing the water savings that can come for our region from that. And then the flip side are the direct install, both out exterior turf removal, where San Marino Valley carries a contract with a contractor, and then also the indoor fixtures. We have had conversations with representatives at South Mesa and the city of San Bernardino, both, who have they have customers that have a lot of water savings potentials, but not that cash flow. So the direct install program allows them to participate. Just to kind of walk through, again, the turf replacement rebate. So that's that more traditional cash for grass program. It is a two-part program where the property has to submit an application. And because we want to make sure that we're having communication and keeping the water retailer included, they also have to sign off on the application and acknowledge that the property will help them to achieve some kind of regulatory compliance. So showing that it is part of it aligns with their conservation initiatives as well. And then we'll do a post-inspection. So the pre-inspection will give them a maximum amount of money that they can receive for turf removed. And then the post-inspection is making sure that they actually remove the square footage that they had said they would, or their rebate is reduced appropriately. For the direct install, like I said, we are having early coordinations with South Mesa, Riverside Highland, and City of San Bernardino. All have properties that they've identified that they really feel like could align with their long-term conservation goals. And then, but having it so that we administer the contract through a contractor. So that is underway with a significant amount of interest, though, throughout the service area. So that is a program that will be funded on a first-come, first-served basis. So rather than reserving set amounts for each retailer, because we are on a really tight timeline for this grant, it's come one, come all, and we'll try to exhaust the funding so that we don't have to return it to the state at the end of the year. So I think we should be able to do it as the way we're trending right now. So with that, there's no action that is required of the board, but I'm happy to answer any questions of you if you have any.
Thank you, Kelly. That was great. Any questions from the board? Milford.
On the direct install, particularly the portion in the San Bernardino Municipal Water Department's jurisdiction, this is where we will recommend to them that they do direct outreach to the Apartment Owners Association so that they can submit applications and say, yeah, I would like this direct install for these apartment buildings.
Correct. Yes. Also, within the new conservation regulations, they do have to identify water use customers. So it's kind of being able to segment out who they're, exactly. Yes, exactly. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
On the grants, the city of Redlands and West Valley, Is that grant money given to us and then we pass it on to them?
Yes, that is a fun. So for the question, the Director Harrison, just in case anybody online didn't hear it, is do we pass the grant funding along? So this is a fun grant that the retailer submitted the information to us. We submitted the information to MODOC. MODOC submits the information to DWR. DWR reviews and provides approval. They send a check to MODOC. MODOC sends a check to us, and then we send a check to the retailer. So there's lots of hands involved in this Prop 1 Round 1 grant funding. It's very exciting. But yes, we do end up actually writing a check to them. But Cindy made me make sure that the check was in the bank before we wrote the check. Paycheck first.
Thank you.
Heather.
I just wanted to recognize all of the work that Kelly's done on this program. If you remember, water conservation has been a bit of a hot potato over the years that we have passed on to a lot of people who sit upstairs in the technical departments. And we've struggled with the right fit for our retail agencies and a program that really provides a lot of benefit. So I just want to publicly appreciate the work that Kelly has done. She's done this for, well over probably a decade in her career. She really knew what we needed to do when she came on to San Bernardino Valley and has been working consistently with the retail agencies conservation coordinators to try to understand their needs to the best of our ability and shape a program around those needs so that it can be as successful as possible. And it goes from everything of just imagining what this program should be, coordinating with those different agency personnel. Like she said, 2 days ago, she was out, in the field doing a site inspection in Loma Linda because she's the only one who's doing conservation right now. So it's been a really hard program to implement over the entire 12 years that I've been here. It's always been a struggle, but I think that we are finally at the place where the retail agencies are appreciative of the work that Kelly is doing and the work and the, support of our board in a way that we let them be do what they need to do. So I just want to publicly say thank you to Kelly for taking this on because it's a really important thing that we do that we've struggled to have success with. And then I also want to just mention that we will be scheduling the public giant check presentations at the different agencies over the next coming months as we can get on their schedules so that the board members can go and, give them the big check and get a photo and have those discussions with the different agencies. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you so
When you
much.
came to Loma Linda, did you come to my house?
I did not. I ran from a meeting to the inspection and then back to another meeting. So,
Oh,
but they were wonderful.
well, you should
I'm
have.
excited to work with them.
We would have welcomed you. We've given you a Dr. Pepper or something.
Okay, any final comments or questions for Kelly? Okay, hearing none, then let's move on. Thank you, Kelly. Any future business? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.